I'm going to be doing this presentation with my colleagues and partners, Scott Key from VMware and Joe Viviano from EMC. Just wanted to get things started with a little video we hope you'll appreciate. And action. Let's try this one more time.
The Community Platform is our cloud solution for global capital markets community. My name's Stanley Young. I'm CEO of NYSE Technologies. What's exciting about this cloud community offering is it's been specifically designed for global capital markets to be deployed globally in support of our clients' business. It's the only one of its kind in the world, and we're very excited about bringing it to market.
It's a perfect time for NYSE Technologies to launch its cloud computing services. My name is Jared Euster, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pico Quantitative Trading. Over the last 18 months, we've been in a low volatility and low volume environment. As a result, large broker-dealers and hedge funds have been in expense reduction and cost-cutting mode. It's a perfect opportunity for these large firms to outsource their technology to NYSE Technologies for cloud computing. In addition, we've seen numerous startups over the last 18 months. And cloud computing will enable these firms to get to market in a nimble fashion. It will also enable these firms to scale their businesses as they grow.
We have great partners that we're working with to bring this solution to market. VMware and EMC. They're going to be providing the core technology that will enable the cloud.
My name's Carl Eschenbach, and I'm co-president of VMware. VMware is providing the software cloud infrastructure layer that's powering the NYSE Technology Community Cloud.
There's a lot of discussion in the market around cloud, but what this is a community platform purpose-built for the capital markets customers within financial services. I'm Howard Elias, President and Chief Operating Officer at EMC. EMC is providing the foundation of storage systems capabilities as well as information management, and this is all based on EMC's market-leading unified storage technology.
We think this cloud is going to take their business to the next level.
Okay, so there you're getting a glimpse of some of the pieces of the story. We're going to fill this out a little bit today. Here's our agenda. We're going to start talking about the why of community clouds and what really is the business drivers that have led us to produce this offering and our spurred customer adoption. We're going to talk about what exactly it is, give you a little bit of a look under the covers of the offering, and then we're going to walk you through how it all gets done and some of the more technical elements. After that, happy to open up to Q&A. Okay, so without further ado, let me hand it over to Scott. Scott, please.
Thanks, Ken. All right, so I'm just going to take a few minutes, since we're really bright, to give you guys some context around the community cloud piece of this offering. So you guys have seen from VMware in the past the different types of clouds, and here's some of our basic definitions of a private cloud, a public cloud. I think you guys are familiar. You always hear us talking about a hybrid cloud, which bridges those two together. So we kind of have a new piece here called a community cloud. There's a basic definition there, but I want to add a little bit to that. In my opinion, a community cloud needs two major things. One is it has to have a fence around it, or a gate. I like to consider it like a gated community. Now, any service provider, anyone out there could create a cloud and say, hey, this has security around it, it's only for financial services, and that would solve one of the issues. But the second issue it doesn't solve, which NYSE Technologies is able to solve, is the fact that it also needs to have services there that community wants, right? So in the NYSE Technologies solution, it's market data. And the ability or desire for third-party vendors to come in and put their software products in this cloud and offer them as a SaaS service. And that's what you get from a solution provider like NYSE, who's already in the industry, plus several other things that you'll hear in the next few minutes. I wanted to show you this view as well. So this is a basic view that we have of the, again, public-private hybrid model. If I overlay what we see as a community cloud over the top of this, it's very interesting in that it starts to bring both of those together. So the benefits that we show in a private cloud and the benefits we show in a public cloud, you really start to get both of those in terms of the control, the security, and the leverage really being available outside of your four walls in this type of a model. And this is the last slide I'll cover here and hand it back to Ken. So from a public cloud standpoint, why would financial services not want a public cloud? Some of those are very simple. There's definitely security concerns. Those clouds are not industry focused, as I just mentioned. They might be able to say, hey, this is financial services only, but there's really no services there that helps that customer. And they're not application aware. So if you have like a Google or an Amazon, those clouds are very generic. Whereas in the community cloud space in financial services, you can create a cloud that offers services that are extremely aware and special to the needs of those customers. From a private cloud standpoint, most of the major banks are building private clouds today. But like in the case of NYSE Technologies and capital markets, you're far away from the market data and the trading services in your private cloud, so they have to pull that data across large pipes back into their data centers. You also have no room to burst. Typically, if you're managing all your own infrastructure, you're trying to build it out so you're getting everything out of it that you can and getting the efficiency. With the community clouds, you have a secure place like a private cloud, but you can burst and use that additional infrastructure. And the last piece is there's always a focus on the infrastructure, typically on a private cloud side, not the business, where these types of clouds, like the one that NYSE Technologies has built, is purely a business services type service, rather than an infrastructure team building something internally again to be specifically efficient. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ken and let him walk you through the business drivers and why NYSE built this cloud. Okay.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, so I want to start out here with a bit of an analogy to explain why we think this is unique. As with any new kind of concepts or innovations, sometimes it can be tough to get your head around what this thing is just by reading a brochure or a product brand. And something recently in the news I thought kind of really brought this all together for me. And it was when Jeff Bezos launched the Kindle Fire. Because he had this quote, he said, well, you can call this a tablet if you like, but I call it a service. What he meant by that was this wasn't yet another Me Too sort of tablet, which had a cool touch screen and very nice form factor. The powerful thing about the Fire, just as it is about the iPad, is about the deep integration of the hardware and the services underpinning it. This is a content delivery platform. This is about easy access, convenient access to content, books or magazines or videos or music. And it's about having the e-commerce experience deeply wedded in. So it's very simple to browse from the catalog, it's very easy to execute your transaction, and it's very easy to complete the transaction and satisfy what you're really after, which is to consume the content itself. That's really what we're trying to do here with our community platform. Some of the goals we're trying to address by building by this marriage of infrastructure and services are certainly to reduce cost, share infrastructure services to gain savings. This is traditionally the value that you'd find in a public cloud. However, we're not a public cloud. It's not available for all comers. It's not available on a publicly available URL on the internet. It's a privately networked solution. We're also looking to help our customers increase revenue. So clearly anybody who's close to the capital markets these days understand we're undergoing transformation, as we long have, but it's particularly acute these days. You saw Goldman Sachs report losses again today. It's a very difficult environment. So there's an increasing urgency to look at ways of not only reducing costs, but also growing and becoming more agile. So what we're trying to do is increase agility, again, by not only just offering an infrastructure as a service capability and the benefits you'd associate with that, but the ability to turn up infrastructure with services. So to do that, we've brought this solution together we call the Capital Markets Community Platform. All right? These things are located, first of all, in our liquidity centers. Here you see the one we opened up in Mahwah, New Jersey last year. It's a beautiful facility, 17-acre campus, surrounded by some formidable fences, protected by armed security guards, dogs, and car traps. Indeed. Not so easy to get entry. And the digital analog of that is our safety network, the secure financial transactions infrastructure. This is a carrier-grade MPLS network, and it's a private club. Only a couple thousand institutions in the world have it, but those institutions are the ones in the capital markets you want to talk to. And that's just one way that we minimize the surface area of opportunity for would-be threats, shall we say. But it starts out with these liquidity centers, which are running our markets and running the co-located assets of many of our customers. We have quite a bit of capacity here, backed up by redundant power facilities, a tremendous amount of investment in facilities, be it mechanical, electrical, and so forth. In those facilities, be it Mahwah or be it Basildon, 30 miles to the east of London, which is our European hub, we have our markets. In the case of Mahwah, it's NYSE and ARCA and Amex. Over here, that's going to be things like Life, like Euronext, Smartpool. Increasingly, it's the home of customer trading facilities. Goldman Sachs' Sigma X Dark Pool, for example. So those markets are services that live within the facility. The networks are there. There are LAN solutions, something we call the Liquidity Center Network, the LAN that is built for ultra-high performance communication within the environment itself. And then safety IP, which is the extranet, if you like, that spans the globe at this point, predominantly in the US and Europe, and expanding into into Asia with a presence in Singapore and soon Tokyo. And that connects us not only to customers but to away markets, be it NASDAQ or BATS or so forth. Also in that facility, we have other market data-like services. So consolidated tapes. In the US, Oprah would be an example of that. We also have historical data archive products, something we call the Trades and Quotes database, which has years of tick-by-tick trade and quote data in a historical data archive. And we have transaction services that allow you to connect directly to markets, our markets and away markets, but also to other participants, to dark pools, to broker-dealers, to asset managers and other buy-side institutions. And we've traditionally been in the business of providing co-location if you wish to run your computing, networking, and storage assets in our data centers. But the latest implementation is this new innovation, which is compute on demand. This is our infrastructure as a service capability. Compute on demand is where we rack up hardware, networking, and storage and provide that through an on-demand interface. We offer it in both physical and virtual flavors, if you will. The physical edition is meant for the few use cases where folks think they need physical infrastructure, which might occur at the highest latency sensitivity of the market. Increasingly, we're finding customers opt for the virtual edition, which takes that same physical infrastructure, uses vSphere for virtualization, uses vCloud Director 1.5, and that provides a portal that they can log into and self-provision. Provision their own Linux images, provision their own Windows images. Once they provision that image, it has access to the services. It's connected to safety. Through Safety LCN and Safety IP, all these services are made accessible. So it's not only about getting access to computing, it's about getting access to computing that you can do something with, because the services are auto-provisioned. I mentioned the two editions of this here, virtual and physical. Virtual we can provision in minutes, seconds in some cases, really. Physical edition we can deploy in days. Not quite as agile, but certainly a lot more agile than if you're dealing, as sometimes we often do, with internal procedures and procurement cycles and approval cycles that can really slow down the procurement process, add overhead, add delays, add costs, and so forth. For what it's worth, I wanted to point out a third solution that we're working with our customers in some cases, managed infrastructure solutions. In some cases, our customers will come to us and say, for my particular use case, I don't want shared infrastructure. I'm willing to sacrifice the benefits economically and agility-wise. I want something purpose-built for me. Well, we can do that. We can build custom infrastructure solutions through a combination of server, switching, and storage, working with our partners, and build something suited to your taste. This is something we can deploy in weeks, although traditionally negotiating the SLAs will take a lot longer than a few weeks. But you can blame your lawyers as well as ours. So we do work with our customers on that. To make it clear, what are we doing? We're responsible for deploying and managing everything except the business applications in all those cases. So we can deploy and patch and manage the OS. Obviously, we're managing the computing and the storage. We're providing that co-location wrapper. We're providing all the connectivity you need under the hood. So it is really sort of an all-in-one solution. What are the use cases that are driving adoption? I think there's really, I'd say these four are the most common that we're seeing. So in the trading life cycle, we're talking to prop trading shops, broker-dealers, and these guys are looking for the rapid creation of servers to run their applications on. They might be market making. They might be algorithmic trading strategies. They might be applications like execution management systems or order management systems. So we're seeing all that. Again, sometimes they're physical, but increasingly we're seeing our customers wake up to the idea that actually virtual, particularly when you're not going to oversubscribe or have to do too much context switching across multiple machines on a single physical device, can really suit their needs here. We're talking to customers who are processing large data volumes for analytics and reporting. So these customers are doing a few things. They're using our virtual edition. They're loading up their analytical applications. They're then consuming the historical archive products that we have locally attached there. So they can go into these archival products, download the files. We have end-of-day file offerings as well as intraday queryable data warehouse capabilities. And so they're doing those sorts of things, again, to run their analytics. And oftentimes they want to run those analytics close to where the actual trading engines are. So they'll run their trading engines on some machines, they'll do the analytics on another, and really complete the life cycle there. We're also starting to talk with our customers about how we can help them with their data warehouse needs. So it goes beyond accessing our licensed content, but rather giving them a on-demand warehouse capability so they can put their content in there without having to worry about purchasing, deploying, and managing their own data warehouses. That's something I think you're going to see really starting to heat up early next year. Lots of testing and validation, unsurprising here. I want to develop applications, test them, QA them, particularly QA them against the markets. Can they handle the current market protocols and APIs? Are they suitable to deal with today's volumes? So lots of that happening to both test and both the use of the test harness for testing the applications, but also testing and validating the actual strategies. And that again goes back to having access to the real-time data and the historical archives to qualify the strategies against. So those are the use cases. Benefits here, first of all, we start with security. You don't have to look any further back than last week to see that security is critical for us. We are a target, and proud to say that last week turned out very successfully for us. So they want to get a secure environment, one that is not perhaps publicly available on the internet. They want to enjoy private connections in and out of that facility. They want to get the business agility that we all know is kind of the cornerstone benefit of cloud, and the cost effectiveness of a shared infrastructure. They also want to get things like open standards. So this is where we marry the services, and we're using things like our API. We have an API very widely used in trading in particular called VMware. We've actually recently announced that we're open sourcing that, and the Linux Foundation is now governing that process. So we're embracing open standards to really move up and down the stack so that even at the sort of the business application level where you're integrating with your content and routing services, you're able to leverage the benefits of open standards. And they want greater access to that community. They want to use our trading networks to connect to other counterparties, whether it be through a market or directly connecting to your buy-side institution or the broker-dealer that's servicing. We can do that. One of the more interesting aspects, I think, to the evolution of this platform will lie in our application partners. So we've already been working with about half a dozen partners who are onboarding. They are testing their applications in the cloud. They're certifying against our services and working with us to figure out how we can SaaS enable those applications. So now, yeah, you can buy an enterprise type order management system and install it on your own image if you like. But increasingly, we want to make those things available as services within the cloud over a private VLAN into their environment. And they want to leverage the fact that this is a very strategic investment for us. It's a corporate priority, and you can see that by some of the sort of executive level statements that we've made here. They want to know the fact that we and our partners are putting a tremendous amount of R&D in this. That's a big reason, if not the reason, why we chose to partner with the MC VMware. It's a big bet on their innovation story and their ability to sort of help us deliver that innovation to our community going forward. Thanks. With that, I want to now turn it over to Joe Viviano. Joe, thanks.
Thanks, Ken. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Show of hands, how many folks do I have in the audience who work directly in the financial services industry? Okay, great. Large majority. Excellent. So when Ken, Scott, and I first gave this presentation in Las Vegas about a month or so ago, it was in the wake of Hurricane Irene, which was a strong storm that bared down on the East Coast and had a direct hit on New York City. So essentially, what had happened during that time was there was actually mandatory evacuations in many parts of the city, including the financial services district in downtown. What was as interesting, though, is as the storm decimated the area on Sunday, Monday morning, if you listen to CNBC News, basically I'm going to paraphrase what they said. They essentially said, come heck or high water, come wind or rain, the New York Stock Exchange is open and ready for business. My house wasn't open and ready for business. We were out of power for a week. Right, so I don't know if anybody here from the East Coast by any chance? Okay. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the New York Stock Exchange has a brand of trust, stability, and security in the financial markets. And when they called upon EMC and VMware to be key partners to help them enable this cloud offering, these had to be core tenets in our technical architecture. So those of you who are technical architects in the room, when you look at these design criteria, performance, capacity, security, it's squishy, right? It's, everything needs to be designed this way. But the reality is we're working behind a company that has a brand that stands for this tremendously. So core portions of our architecture. I'll get into some of these as we talk about how we implemented this. A unique aspect of this architecture are the networking services that provide a lot of the data and information services that Ken referred to. So that had to be part of our considerations. And then, like any good cloud offering, we needed some aspect of providing the user and the end user some control of their destiny and provisioning and services. So I'm going to talk about the stack at a high level initially, and then I'll dive into each of these components a little bit, and then we can have some Q&A at the back end of the session. So at the core of the virtual operating environment, we're leveraging vSphere 4.1. vSphere 5 is in the lab today, and at some point we will roll that into the production environment. As part of the virtual administrator's control interface, as well as the client's interface to their virtual cloud, we're leveraging vCloud Director 1.5. Another core component to this is, as a service provider, they need a way to measure and meter what's being consumed in this physical infrastructure, so they're going to leverage vCenter Chargeback to get some of that information. Do we have any service providers in the audience, by any chance? Okay, great. Okay, we do. We have a smattering. So some of the concepts and design criteria that we're going to talk about here are regardless of what your physical infrastructure is and who your partners are, these are all considerations that you have to think about, as well as if you're just an enterprise class or mission critical application. These are considerations you'll have to think about as well. So next, at the core of the physical infrastructure, EMC is bringing to the table their next generation unified platform, VNX, as the core of the information architecture. And then New York Stock Exchange has standardized on x86 platforms with the latest Westmere Intel chipset. And that continually evolves as more and more requirements come from a lot of the applications in their sector, in their vertical. Lastly, the management aspect of this physical infrastructure. We configured an out-of-band management network, physically segregated by physical firewalls. This is kind of where we run the Active Directory identification, identity management. We do DNS. We have the management tools for the server, network, and compute, all separate and physical from the environments in which the clients reside and run their applications. So let's talk about the virtual infrastructure. As I mentioned, we're leveraging vCloud Director to provide the virtual capabilities within the environment. This is the user interface, not only for the virtual administrators and operations staff at New York Stock Exchange, but also the clients themselves. So we organize the physical infrastructure. Today, it's 2 8-node ESX clusters provided as one provider VDC. And as I mentioned, we have a separate management cluster. Today, that's a 4-node cluster off to the side. The clients, as they come on board, we will provision them an organizational VDC. And today what we're doing is we're leveraging the reservation pool model within vCloud Director. And the reservation sizing that we're starting with in the catalog is essentially about a 35 gigahertz, 96 gig RAM, and approximately 2 terabytes. And we provide them that virtual data center. And that's up to them now how they want to leverage that and create virtual environments and machines within that. Today, we're leveraging the reservation pool model so that we can provide some consistent SLAs to the customer in terms of their resources. As the cloud offering becomes a little bit more mature, we get a better understanding of how the customers are consuming it. We can leverage more of the information we're getting from things like chargeback to start to move the customers to more of a pay-as-you-go model. We have a shared catalog, so today all of the customer or the organizational VDCs will leverage a shared catalog. Presently, the catalog has Windows 2008 R2 instances and RHEL 5 64-bit capability. So those are currently what's available in the service catalog. Again, going back to resiliency and redundancy, we're balancing across 2 VCD cells to provide access from the customer's perspective as well as from the administrative operations teams at New York Stock Exchange. Authentication into the environment. This is a unique aspect. Again, as a service provider, multi-tenancy is a paramount design criteria. So leveraging today, what we're leveraging is Active Directory. Each client or organizational VDC will be essentially their own organizational unit within the Active Directory tree. Today, that is managed by New York Stock Exchange operations teams. As the clients come in and request services, they will manage that. What we're looking to do going forward is to try to create a federated ID management capabilities where we can kind of then allow the customer to actually control their tenancy. And of course, we're leveraging the standard resiliency capabilities and resource management tools within vSphere itself. We've got HA, the clusters are HA enabled, DRS is enabled in automated mode, and we're leveraging things like storage IO control to address things like the noisy neighbor concept. So when you have multiple tenants on shared infrastructure, we want to make sure that service levels are good. Talk about the network. The network was a very unique attribute of what the New York Stock Exchange Cloud provides their customers. And Ken referred to the safety network. The safety network is a global 10 gig MPLS network. Again, it's a subscription-based network connectivity. This is not available on the internet. Today, again, it serves customers who have extremely low latency requirements. So today, I believe it's at 70 microseconds. There's some upgrades coming that are going to take that below the 10 mics for performance metrics. So again, a very unique aspect to their environment. So when we configured the organizational VDCs within vCloud Director, there were some unique requirements. A lot of the organizations are going to need to access up to maybe in the essence of 5 external networks. So that could be anywhere from the market data feeds to access to the actual internet, the access to the safety network so that they can access their vCloud Director portal. It also is access to file sharing capabilities. Those external networks were configured as isolated networks, again, so that there was no communication between anybody else on the tenants. And then besides the the external nets, we also configured one organizational network, which provides the client the ability to actually have their own environment inside their organization without any traffic being passed to any other clients in the physical infrastructure. And essentially we're using vShield Edge as a NAT router in that case to isolate those environments. And the customer will have access to configure within that internal network any other firewall rules that they wish to configure based on their application needs. New York Stock Exchange has a significantly large investment in protection and security, and at the network layer, a lot of that is done at the physical firewall level. So today, like I mentioned, vShield Edge is primarily a NAT router, just isolating the tenants within the infrastructure. All the policies around access to services are done in the physical firewall environment. The information infrastructure that supports the NYSE Community Cloud is based on EMC's latest generation unified storage platform, DNX. And this provides multi-protocol capabilities. So as I mentioned, where the client comes in and initially can get a service offering of a organizational virtual data center that includes 2 terabytes of capacity, they also have the opportunity to subscribe to file share services, where they can potentially share information among the applications within their organizational virtual data center, or choose to share with other members of the community through the external networks. So again, one common storage platform providing multiple use case capabilities. Other thing that was important was ease of use and the ability to bend and flex with the requirements that are going to be placed on the storage infrastructure. So what we ended up doing is configuring 2 pools of storage capability. We created a performance pool and a capacity pool. In the performance pool, we're leveraging both flash-based storage technology as well as SAS-based storage technology. And we're leveraging our fully automated storage tiering capabilities to dynamically move blocks of information to the appropriate performing storage tier as the client's applications are requesting them. So we're driving as much automation into the physical infrastructure as we can to meet the service levels of the clients. Now, for those of you who raised your hands before that are in the service provider space, technologies like this are paramount because you don't know your client's workloads. They're subscribing to your service. You're not really sure what they're going to run, how they're going to run it, how often they're going to run it, what times a day they're going to run it. So automation within the infrastructure such as this is helpful in automating to make sure that you're getting service levels. The capacity pool is based on nearline SAS, and again, this is for the use case where they need a more cost-effective, deep storage pool that they can share information among their organizational virtual data center. Another important aspect to helping meet service levels is the connectivity, and we're leveraging in this particular use case PowerPath Virtual Edition, which is EMC's instantiation of a load balancing and multipathing software. In this case, it replaces the native multipathing within vSphere and provides a much more granular control of the IOs that are hitting in that environment. So it creates a much more balanced and more highly performing physical connectivity infrastructure. The other aspect of the physical information infrastructure is managing it. So we wanted to make sure that the New York Stock Exchange operations teams had full access to managing this environment and make it as tightly integrated to the virtual layer as possible. So our storage, the VNX storage platforms provide a couple of capabilities in this case. The first one, pretty straightforward. We support all the current VAAI APIs that are exposed as of 4.1, and we will continue to support the newer ones that are coming out with vSphere, that have come out and announced with vSphere 5. More importantly, from a management perspective, the virtual administrators within New York Stock Exchange and the operations team, and the storage administrators within the NYSE operations team, they have a common view of how virtual machines are consuming the storage by using Unisphere to get a visibility of all the virtual machines consuming the storage. And the virtual administrator has full, deep knowledge of where their VMs are placed on the physical infrastructure, leveraging the free VSI plugins, which are vCenter plugins. Again, things to think about no matter what physical infrastructure you're using to build your cloud offering. These are the ways that VMware and EMC are using to attack those architectural design requirements. Real quick, are there any EMC customers out here, by chance? Okay, we do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you have storage platforms, use the VSI. It's a free plugin to download, and it'll help kind of bring the management aspects to a much more simpler place. So I hope you're doing that. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to Ken. He's going to finish out the presentation, and then, of course, we'll all be available for Q&A at the end. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, just finally wanted to address the network, because the network is critical to what we do here. And you can see here that the compute on demand environment has multiple network interfaces. Now this is critical because we have to provide a unique array of services. One there is the sort of out-of-band management for our customers, the remote control connectivity, if you will. So we have one interface that's designed to establish private VLANs across the network and connect back to wherever our customers exist, another co-location center or their home office. We also have another unicast interface for our management, so that our support staff can monitor each tier of the infrastructure and manage that as necessary. Then finally, there are two service interfaces. One for unicast services. So some of our services, particularly trading services, are unicast based. So there's a TCP/IP interface for that. But finally, and one thing that's particularly unique to the capital markets is the amount of multicast data that we use. So we've had to create another multicast interface to handle that traffic and make that available to the environment. You can also see the interfaces then into the storage elements, and you heard Joe talk about how we can support both Fiber Channel for block access and Ethernet for file. And this is one of the things that we've found that we've done. This has been sort of groundbreaking. We could probably share some experiences with you around that if it's a similar challenge for your firm. So that's it. We wanted to open things up for Q&A. Joe and Scott will join me here, as well as Phil Radin from my team is here as well. He's product manager for infrastructure on demand. And let us know if we can answer any questions for you.